Welcome to Wager Talk TV, guys. I'm Kelly Stewart, joined by Dave Cokin. If you're not already following him, at Dave Cokin on Twitter. Dave, so growing up in the Midwest, I didn't ever get to have fun events like going to the track, right? Because we just didn't have horse tracks. We had greyhounds, and Missouri had some other weird stuff. But for the most part, I know that's a pretty cool thing getting to grow up in either Southern California or the East Coast. So tell me about your favorite horse racing story. I know it involves a pretty famous horse called Canistical.
Well, it wasn't famous at all.
Oh.
But the story ended up becoming somewhat famous. So this is going back to the early 70s. I don't remember the exact year, approximately 73 or 74. And I was on the other side of the counter. I had a book. It was a decent-sized book, but I was tied in with a larger book because you had to have someplace to lay action off. And had a good stable of customers. And one of the guys who bet with me was a jockey who rode the New England circuit. So he rode Narragansett Park, Lincoln Downs, Suffolk if he got a decent mount, Rockingham, etc. And he was down a few $1,000s, and I wasn't the only one he bet with. So I got a call one night, and he says, "I can't talk to you on the phone." Because
okay, well, yeah, right.
It wasn't that the phones were tapped or anything like that. He was at a bar, and he didn't want anybody to hear him. He says, "You got to come down to the penalty box." Penalty box was a bar next to the Rhode Island Auditorium, which was like 3 blocks from where I lived. It's where I grew up, and that's where the pro hockey team played. So the perfect name for a bar right across the street was the penalty box. So I go down to the penalty box. I don't know, 9, 10 o'clock in the evening. And I'm not going to mention the jockey's name, even though he's dead now.
Even though he's dead now, Dave.
But anyway, this was back in the days when you got inside information, okay? It's not like today where there's really not a lot of inside information.
Right, you get some little teeny tiny snippets, but nothing crazy.
Yeah, so
okay.
Now he says, "I need you to get some serious action down for me tomorrow on a race at Narragansett." And it's like, you already owe me like $3,000.
Which is a lot in the 70s.
Well, yeah, and it was a lot because I wasn't like a massive bookmaker. I wasn't taking like $50,000 bets or anything like that. So he says, "Listen, this is the best information you are ever going to get in your life, okay? All right." He says, "You're going to erase the debt, right? Because you're going to get money down for me and as much down for yourself as you want. It's pari-mutuel, but, you know, it's still..." He says, "All right, the first race tomorrow, it's a maiden race, and there's a bunch of first-time starters in the race. And he says, there's a horse named Canistical that's running, and the morning line is going to be like 14, 15 to 1. He says, it's going to get bet down because a lot of people..."
Everybody knows now.
Well, there's some information on it. So, but it's still going to go off at a good price. What's going on? He says, he says, "I can't tell you everything, but it's not Canistical, okay? They brought in a ringer from New York to try and get a quick purse. Somebody needed to make some money, I guess, and they wanted to get... So this horse that they brought in was a quality horse running against a bunch of nags.
And so it looks like the same horse.
Well, they all look alike.
No, they don't.
The horses,
I grew up in Kansas. Horses do not all look alike. But okay, so they brought in a horse that looks similar.
We'll go to the racetrack, and you tell me the difference. I mean, okay, they outside of some color differences, they look alike. Okay, they're horses. So anyways, the horse wins by just a mile. He just completely blew away these horses, and I made a lot of money on this because the horse ended up going off like 7 to 1. So,
wow.
And I wheeled him in the double, and a long shot came into the second race, so the double paid like almost $300, and it was a very good score. The funny thing is that you just keep your mouth shut about it.
Right.
Somebody at some point did open their mouth because about 6 months later, there's this investigation, and I guess they identify the horses with some kind of a thing inside their mouth.
Like a tattoo or something?
Yeah, something like that. So they got ID numbers, and they discovered that the horse that had won this particular race at Narragansett was not Canistical. It was some other horse.
So how does that work after they've already paid everybody out?
Well, I'm not going back to the track and giving back the money and saying, no. But that was actually relative to the time frame, it's probably the best score I've ever made. I mean, it was a lot of money. I went out and bought an absolute top-of-the-line Bang & Olufsen stereo, which later got stolen, by the way, when somebody broke into my place.
Sounds like a little bit of karma coming back around. Jesus. I always feel like that. Whenever I win something great, then it always comes back around. Something else tends to bite you in the ass.
By the way, real quick, this is the difference between now and then is there really was so much. I mean, bookmaking was a little bit dangerous back then because you could get beat by somebody who had inside information, but it was out there. I mean, I used to play poker with the head basketball coach at Brown University. You don't think I had a good idea of when Brown was going to win and when they weren't?
I mean, that's the kind of stuff. I mean, we had this conversation the other day. If you could have been here 20 or 30 years ago, the amount of difference, because now even with just how fast the lines move around Vegas, like, you know, I've heard old stories where guys would just drive and just pick off bad numbers because the other bookmakers hadn't caught up yet.
Funniest part, we used to hang out at the Rose Bowl out here, which then became Gary Austin's and now is long gone. That's when they had a lot of freestanding books out here. And, of course, you know, cell phones weren't around back then. And they had a bank of payphones right outside the building. And whenever a line moved, you'd see this mass exodus of runners heading to the payphones outside to call their contacts and let them know, oh, a line moved here. And it was comical. You'd just sit there and be highly entertaining because as soon as you saw somebody going to the board to change a number, it's good. Here they go, you know. And we would bet. We would sit there and bet on who would get outside first. You know, I'll take the fat guy with the brown shirt. You know?
That's great. Oh my God, Dave, with all the stories. All right, guys, if you liked these last couple stories from Dave, make sure you comment below. You want to hear something funny? I'm sure Dave has got 150,000 of these stories over the last 30 years. Also, don't forget to like and share almost 40 years. You've lived in Vegas longer than I was born. That's crazy. All right, guys, great stuff again from Dave. Make sure you guys subscribe and check out all of our other videos on YouTube.